Good evening, everybody. Thank you for coming. As you have heard, one of the main topics of our lecture are the performance of the roof. That is an important part of the building. And with the help of my friend and colleagues, architect Zaanoni, we will try to explain the result of research we have just finished a few months ago in the University of Ferrara. As you have heard, roof is something like energetic barrier. He has to face several problems during the year. The problem of the cold in winter, the problem of the heat in summer, and manage the passage of vapor all the year long. So it's one of the most important elements of the envelope, of the building envelope, and it must be designed in a very good way to get out the best performances it can do. As you, Dr. Gagari told you, have you seen the design of the entire roof is made up of several elements and layers, and you have to design them like a teamwork. They have to work together. You have to manage all the different layers and to overlap everyone, thinking exactly to what you need and what they have to do. And you've seen from in the last slide of Dr. Gagari the different problem that comes out with the different components of the package, of the roof package. So it's something, I used to say, something like a teamwork that must work together. From the sustainability point of view, from the comfort point of view, the energy save point of view, the Italian standard rule, I mean the European standard rule, because are the same, planned 6 solutions, 6 functional schemes. The upper line without insulation, happen, some solution without insulation, and the lower 3 with insulation. But all 6 has always a ventilation layer that could be thin, around 3-4 centimeters, that we called micro ventilation. There could be a more space, a more ventilation layer to increase the movement of the air. In literature they call above sheeting ventilation or full ventilation. And the third solution that you find in both the line is something like a ventilation space through the attic under roof, the space under roof. These are the 6 situations that you can find in the standard, Italian standard, European standard rule. And just to let you understand better, I can show this picture that comes also from the standard I was telling you. This the minimum that are required by the standard rule. That is a microventilation that comes out laying the tile over a single line of buttons of 3-4 centimeters. And in the European standard, this is mandatory. You must always realize almost this situation because it performs a lot of, it solves a lot of problems. And you see, you can have a structure, light or heavy, a massive concrete structure or a wooden structure, with the buttons and tire, and between the curved part of the tire and the buttons, you realize a immaterial space, immaterial function that is the microventilation I was telling you. To increase the performance of the movement of this air, you can use a double button with a single line. Oh, thank you, but I can use the shadow. Like a Chinese shadow. Something else? Okay, a single line, perpendicular to the gutter line to increase the space of the ventilation layer, and a secondary line parallel to the gutter line to engage, to support and engage the tiles. And this is what we used to call a bomb shielding ventilation, a very performance movement of the air in the roof. In a while, with my friend Marco, we will see how much it increased the performance of the roof, and it helps to save energy. The last types of movement of the air is this one that involves the entire volume under roof. In this case, of course, this is an inhabited space, just for storage or for insulation on the exodus of the concrete slab. And anyway, you must, by the must realize always the microventilation on the top of your roof. In our research, we try to compare the performance of the flat, classic functional flat roof with the one of a pitched roof with microventilation and with ventilation on the top of the pitched. We thought to build the flat roof with this package, and I ratted the autoclaved structure, concrete structure, with an insulation of polystyrene, a sloping screed in lightweight concrete to realize a sloping surface to take the water to the gutter line, and a waterproof membrane, bitumen or PVC membrane, self-protected with gravel or with a coating surface. On the other side, a similar building with pitched roof, with the light structure on the roof, the same slab of concrete that separate this space and the roof from the living room, built with wooden structure, a wooden board over the structure to realize a surface, continuous surface, insulation, single or double layer of buttons to have micro ventilation of full ventilation, a needle effective membrane also for a secondary emergency waterproof layer, and the tiles.
Good evening to everyone. As you know, assessing the energetic performance of a building and of a roof is a very difficult task, because the performance depends on some factors, external conditions, construction elements, and the domestic use of the building. As you, Giovanni, say, to compare two roof typologies, we use a finite elements numerical model that solve at the same time heat transfer problem and the fluid dynamics problem in unsteady state. Our analysis is organized on two levels. The first one is a comparison between the flat roof and the pitched roof with a microventilation layer and with a full ventilated layer. The domain in the model does not include only the building structure, roof, floors, and walls, but also the environmental context, air and a little volume of ground below the under the building. In summer period, summertime, the overheating of the buildings is strictly linked to the external condition: air temperature, wind speed, solar radiation. And to reproduce the external condition in the model, you can say that we say boundary condition to define the external environment. We consider these series of air temperature, sun radiation, and wind speed. Air temperature and sun radiation are dependent from time. Wind speed doesn't not depend from time, but also it varies in accordance to the altitude. All of these conditions are taken by the Israeli Meteorological Service, but consider that air temperature that we use in the model is always 1 or 2 Celsius degrees higher than the temperature during the day in Israel.
The purpose of our research was to compare the performance of the flat roof with pitched roof in Israeli condition. That is a very, I think is very good for you, but you don't think like me. Very good things, but we come from a very cold winter in Italy, so we like the weather in Israel, but I know that it's very hot in summer.
Moreover, to consider the indoor comfort, we suppose air conditioning system operating inside the building to maintain 26 degrees inside the living space. 26 degrees is the temperature that the Italian law imposed to maintain in summer period. We can't go under this temperature.
The lower temperature we can have inside the house during the summer. We know that you prefer a lower temperature. They told us around 24 or 23. Think that all the value we are giving you with a lower temperature will goes better, will increase. So the difference between the performance of a flat roof and pitched roof will increase, and the energy you need for to maintain inside the building the same temperature will be more different, and the money saving will be different.
All of in detail, when we examine the ventilated pitched roof, we consider the variation of specific roof elements, varying the thickness of the above sheet ventilation, considering two thickness, 4 centimeter and a higher one, 8 centimeter. So we consider also 3 levels of air permeability between the overlap between the tiles, from a null permeability, 0 millimeter, to 9 millimeters. And finally,
because as you can see also in this model, the tile are, of course, designed to realize a waterproof surface, but not an airtight surface. Between the overlap of the tile, there is a little gap through which the air can pass, can go through. And this is very important for the ventilation, because it increases a lot the performance of the ventilation.
And we made other simulations considering the opening at this section, null opening, half opening, and full opening. It's important, these factors are important because ventilation is provided by the permeability and by the eaves section. The solar radiation that increases the temperature of the tiles, and then the heat goes inside the living space. But if you have a ventilated layer, some of this heat will come back in the atmosphere through the ventilation layer. In the summary of all the tests that we made, varying some factors.
Combining the three factors we showed before. These are all the points where we have taken the temperature inside the living space, in the under roof volume, and in the different point of the roof package, above all in the intrados and in the extrados of the ventilation chamber.
These are all average values for temperature. Now, we are going to show you some results.
The research was on computer model, or the research was on checking the temperature?
I don't understand. Can you?
It was research on a computer model.
Simulation.
Yeah.
Just
simulations. But we verified the accuracy of the model with some experimental tests to verify if wind speed inside the chamber was the correct, or if the temperature or heat fluxes was the correct.
The simulation that partially comes out is validated from a real scale experiment.
What kind of software are you using for the simulation?
Specific software prepared by our university with the couple of software houses.
Also, question. In Israel, almost all tiles are Marseille tile. The using Israel is of Marseille type tiles almost universally. We very seldom is the barrel tile used.
Okay.
Have you compared the performance of these two kinds of tiles?
No, we usually work and without simulation with these typical tiles, a little valve, flat and curved one. With the flat tires, I think you are telling, the results are a little lower because of the air gap between them and the space that result from the put-on side of the tire are lower. So this is with this kind of tire.
Each case that we simulate as one flight dynamic solution. This is at 2 p.m. the solution for flat roof, and then we see Okay, this is the solution, fluid dynamics solution for the pitcher roof. You can see how the wind hits the building from left side, determining an overpressure on left side, and consequently determines our depression on the right side. Now we look at the temperature in the living space. I wish look at the blue line. The blue line is the daily temperature in the living space with a flat roof. It goes around 26 degrees with some variations. But what happens if you have a pitcher roof with the under roof space and with microventilation? Look at the green line. You have always 2.5. You have 2.5 degrees lower than the previous one. And if you transport the microventilation in a full ventilation layer, you goes down for another Celsius degree. Is the blue line, the second blue line. This performance depends on two factors. The first one is the ASV, above shielding ventilation, that improves the performance of the pitch roof, increasing the comfort in living space. But also it depends by the under roof volume of air that you have with a pitcher roof that smooths the thermal wave during the day.
I have a question. Can you say what is the pitch of the roof? What is the degree of the pitch?
Around 20%.
For the right side? For that right side?
Yes.
In the picture, that was 20%?
30%.
30?
30.
30, okay.
30. No. All of these cases are simulated considering the same cooling of power in the living space. So, to sum up, if you consider 6 watts per cubic meters cooling power
To maintain this temperature.
Yeah. In the flat roof case, you have 26 degrees on average. But if you have a microventilated pitch roof in the living space, you have only 23 degrees, 3 degrees lower than the flat roof. And if you improve your roof with a ventilated ventilation chamber, you have only 22 degrees inside your living space.
With the same energy used for the chiller.
Now, in detail, these are, we examine in detail the impact on the ventilation efficiency of the factors that we have changed in all the simulation. I will remember the thickness of the ventilation chamber, the thickness of air permeability of the roof covering, and the opening and each section. These are two. This image are two details about the standard ventilated case on the left, with a total opening of each section. On the right side is the solution for the ventilated roof, but with a total closing in each section. As you can see, you have a strong decrease in wind speed inside the chamber. But if you look at the variation with the air permeability, you can see that the temperature varying the opening of this section and varying the air permeability are very similar. But there is a difference between these two factors, because while the inflow through the eaves section is strictly linked to the wind direction, if you have a perpendicular wind to the eaves section, you have a good air inflow through the eaves section. But if the wind has another direction, you could have some problems. While air permeability is on all the sides of the tile, and we can say that it's independent by the wind direction, this effect. Okay, to conclude, we analyze the free convection phenomenon into the buoyancy forces, but it's very, very little effect. But it's important to say that, and you can look at this graph, if you have if you don't have ventilation or a microventilation, the temperature goes high, very high. If compared with a ventilated pitch roof. It's important to have a ventilation. Look into the power. We made a simulation to have the same comfort temperature in all of these roofs. And as you can see, you need a higher power in the flat roof case, but only just if you have a microventilated roof, you need a half power. And if you consider a ventilated pitch roof, you save another 10% of power. Cooling power.
Are you talking about the roof that has an attic or without an attic?
If you have a pitch roof, you always have an attic.
Right, but you also can have, you don't have to have the cavity of an attic.
It's usable or not usable.
You have a sloping ceiling. Okay.
Right.
Yes.
Without an attic.
With a living space. Living space under.
No.
It's not a living space. This is just a volume. If you want to live under the roof, you have an additional space, but you have to condition it. We are just speaking about this space.
So yeah, so you are talking about an
We will
unfinished
compare
attic.
the same space.
Okay.
But if you look at the temperature inside the under roof space, with microventilated case, you can live inside the space. Always, as you understand, temperature is higher.
We can compare this one with this one. We have to try to compare the same space.
But don't think at 35 degrees. You have also 27, 28 degrees with the same power, cooling power, if you compare with the flat roof case. And
at the end, we always arrive to speak of money.
to make a balance.
Simulate a house of 500 cubic meters, so around 150, 170 square meter. A cooling season of 6 months. since this is the summer is enough long, with a 14-hour day of chiller working. And this is the cost that we found, around 1,500 shekel for the flat roof, and the same money saving with the other solution with micro ventilation and ventilation. We save around half of the cost of the flat roof, around 700-800, and around 600 with ventilation.
We consider for the chiller a COP of 3, and we convert the electric kilowatt hour in thermal kilowatt hour, considering this COP. It's a good COP for a chiller. And then if you need more power because you want to have a slower temperature inside, you use more energy and you can save more money.
Yes, as I told you, if you want a lower temperature, this different increase of cost.
To sum up, the ventilated pitch roof displays in the living space the temperature lower than the flat roof one, and this depends on the insulating effect of the attic. Okay. okay. I have to close, but
this is summarizing the result we have told you.
Okay.
Lower temperature, energy and money saving of up to 4%.
If you consider the energy saving, you have a short payback of the extra cost, construction cost to build a pitch roof. That's all.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Do you consider windows and direct radiation into these rooms, or it's just a closed room, two types of rooms?
We didn't consider any window. This because we focus on roof.
That's why it's so good.
Yeah. But if you have some window, you need some power.
No, but the temperature. I do a lot of simulations, and the temperature does not make sense for the Israeli summer.
Okay. But you have only to increase your cooling power.
Yeah. Okay. What
we made a comparison.
Yes, we were focusing on the difference between the two typologies of the roof.
The R value of both the flat roof and the pitch roof was the same.
What?
The R value of the insulation performance.
Yes.
Yeah,
That was the same.
Yes.
similar.
Is it possible to put more insulation in the roof, and then what will happen according to your simulation?
If you increase your insulation, you have a lower temperature inside your living space.
Will it make the ventilated roof not needed?
You always need insulation on your roof.
Of course.
No, ma dice se c'è isolazione, se si alza l'isolazione, se non, quindi significa che non c'è bisogno della ventilazione, è quello che...
No, we are...
Sorry, I just...
Okay.
We are speaking about ventilation, not instead, but in addition of the insulation. Like in your car, you have the safety belts and ABS, and I don't know something else for your security. Ventilation is a passive cooling system, immaterial, so it costs just the cost of the patents, because we have not yet taxes on air, not yet. So this is an additional solution, not.
There is another thing to say. In Europe, we use ventilation not only for summer condition, but also to solve the moisture problem inside the roof, and this is an important factor.
The moisture problem, there is no problem. I know you don't have, but we have. There is no that melt quicker at the upper side along the ridged roof, and to avoid the problem of the cracking of tile by ice, water inside that become ice. So that's why the Italian standard say that the minimum microventilation is mandatory.
In winter, what happens when you have the ventilation? Cold winds go under the tunnel.
Heat that passes through your insulation layer is heat that you have just lost. So, I mean, the ventilation during the winter, it does not give you any performance, but to solve the problem of the moisture. No problem, not against, not in favor.
But in winter you have.
Anyway, in all Italy, in all Europe, we have pitched roof that perfectly works also in winter.
Because in winter you have is a strong problem with moisture, and if you want to have a long life roof, you have to solve this problem, and the only way, one way to solve the problem, and the right way is ventilation.
Because you say in winter you avoid the escape of the heat just with the insulation layer. When your hot air escapes outside the insulation layer, if you have an airtight layer, or if you have the ventilation, I think there is no different. You have lost the heat.
Because you have to consider that the efficiency of the ventilator roof depends on the fact that the air that flows inside the chamber has a cooling effect in decreasing the tiles temperature, not to convection in the under tiles surface. Understand? Yeah.
Where the tile radiates gas.
Yeah.
You have heat coming out, even if you have a tight envelope. It's not as if the building is not a zero energy. It's not still radiates some heat. So you have heat coming out in the winter, and you have cold wind coming through the roof. Then you are creating a situation where moisture gets trapped in between because of the difference of temperature. So what do you do with that? So it can freeze in there and stays, and then kind of when the temperature rises, it just goes
But
away?
inside the roof or in the ventilation chamber, you have the same temperature that you have outside. And if you don't have a ventilation chamber, it's the same. You know?
It's not exactly the same temperature because you have
A higher temperature.
Yes, you do have a higher temperature.
It's better for moisture, no?
Yes, it is.
The moisture remain in a gas situation and is taken away from by the ventilation.
Yeah.
Instead, freeze in the interdose of the tile, of the cold tile.
Right. So it depends on also what the temperature is outside. But could you be in a situation that it can freeze in there and stay, or you will always be in a situation that it's above zero? That's
Well, in our experience, I've never seen a freezing moisture inside the tile, in the interdose lower part of the tile. I used to say that everything can happen to them, but I've never seen it.